Knowledge Transfer Partnership Manager at the University of Nottingham, and I'm going to talk to you today about innovation, but from maybe a slightly different perspective, really from the experience that we've had of working with lots of innovative companies. So where am I from? University of Nottingham. All universities have a kind of a showing off slide. That one is ours. I wouldn't worry too much about the details, but it's a big university. It's produced people like D.H. Lawrence, Sir Peter Mansfield, who invented the MRI scanner, one of the guys who invented ibuprofen, as well as one of the guys who was involved in the libel rigging scandal, and one of the biggest corporate frauds in history. So it's a mixture. Like all universities, I'm sure they're all pretty much the same. So we're talking about innovation today, and we have been, and it's been a really good day. It's really interesting stuff there, and I guess the fact you're here means that you kind of buy into that idea. So where do we come in, and kind of why is the innovation that you do at the university different? Well, I think when people talk about universities and people think about the sorts of things that universities do, often it's that kind of thing that springs to mind, that sort of fundamental science. But actually for us, the sorts of projects that we do, that fundamental science is having impacts in places just like that, on factory floors throughout the country. There are fundamental science problems and processes going on in all of those factories all around the world, and a better understanding of them can make those businesses more money. So the sessions I've set in today, there have been lots of discussions around innovation and what it looks like. So in preparation I had a look and came up with that one, and then that one, and then that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. That's a really good one actually. That one, then that amazing one with a big cone full of things. But I'm not going to talk about models, partly because I can't. But what I will talk about is the sort of things that we've done with businesses on the projects that I run in Nottingham. And over the last 10 years, we've worked with about 200 businesses. And those sorts of projects have been really quite disruptive projects. They've been strategic, significant innovation that the company needs, which is different slightly from the sort of iterations, product improvements, and the kind of general flow through of the business's own innovation practices. So I'm going to talk about the sorts of businesses and the sorts of things that we seem to see as types of problems. I ought to mention very briefly what knowledge transfer partnerships are. They are a government-funded scheme that's been around for about 40 years now. It takes expertise from the universities and transfers it into businesses to make them more money, and it does that by employing a recent graduate in the business, working in a kind of a three-way relationship with the company. It's very successful. It's one of the few government things that's lasted. I can't think of anything else that's lasted that long in terms of business and innovation, and there are similar schemes in Ireland, there are similar schemes in Africa and in Australia, and that's the case because it works quite well. So there have been lots of discussions today around how businesses innovate and how they build innovation into their day-to-day business. But why specifically do they come to universities to innovate? And often it's out of desperation, because actually the normal channels that they would use don't work. There's something quite fundamental about what they need to do that means that their own team internally, external commercial providers, don't have those answers. And I guess we often come in as a kind of a last resort, because they're used to solving their own problems, because that's why they're good at what they do. But sometimes there are problems that they don't know the answer to. And I think what we, see my own slide is not very complicated, my own model is very simple. It seems to us that in the projects we've done, and it's only really something we've started to think about in the last year or so, is that the majority of businesses that come into us, you can categorise the sorts of things they want to do into those three key areas. So there are some which are opportunistic. They've either seen something, a technology out in another marketplace that isn't theirs, but they think they could adapt and use in their own business and do something quite transformative. Something is going badly wrong and they're looking to do something defensive. That might be that there are startups that are undercutting their customer base. It might be that there's a large overseas business that's about to invade their territory. It might be that there are regulatory changes, so they would fall into that defensive category. And the third, and it kind of follows on from the last speaker really, is about having a strategic plan. It's about having a structured, disciplined plan for where innovation goes in your business and how the future of innovation and how your business looks as a result. So the first example falls into that opportunistic category. Lynn Engineering were a really traditional engineering business, fabrication, heavy engineering, been around since the 80s. They launched in the 80s, servicing the mining industry, so their timing wasn't great. But they succeeded, and they continued to do the kind of good, kind of traditional engineering work. They happened to come into an event at university and spotted a piece of kit that had been developed by an academic that was a very small but very novel microbial fuel cell. Now they decided that with their expertise and the sorts of work that they were doing, they could turn that into a product that was different to everything else that was out there. They've now done that. They did one of our projects. They've developed a product that you can take in a packing crate, deliver to a farm, and it can deal with all their cow waste and turn it into biogas and electricity for the farm. But it's transformed the business. It's transformed them away from being traditional family engineering business. They now call themselves innovation engineers, and they've got a number of really exciting projects. They've also used an awful lot of government funding to continue to develop products in different areas, and they've been quite creative in the last sort of 5 or 6 years as a result of just broadening their horizons a bit. But it really was opportunistic. They were looking. They were looking like they would probably go out of business, I think. And this just came up, and there was a spark, and they decided to go for it. The second kind, I can't tell you the name of them, but similarly, traditional family business, been around for a long time. They make some very well-known products that go into the construction industry. And it's not a very complicated product, but it's quite effective, it's quite low cost. And they were aware that in, I think, a year and a half now, legislative changes are coming in through Europe that would mean that one of the key ingredients in their core range of products would no longer be allowed. So they couldn't use it anymore. Something like 70% of their products they just can't make anymore if they don't do something with it. So they tried to do the internal development work and they couldn't. They looked at their commercial partners to see if there were alternatives, and there just weren't. It's not an industry where there's huge amounts of R&D traditionally. There isn't huge amounts of research into this because it's such a niche product. And they came to us because they didn't know where else to go. Third one, and it comes back to those three types of inquiry that we seem to get. Again, follows on an awful lot from the last speaker. The company made a strategic decision. They made a decision that they needed to become a more innovative business. So again, very well established business, just in the middle of Derby, in the Midlands. Been around since the 40s. They manufactured hand soap, they manufactured car shampoo in bulk quantities. And as you can imagine, there was an awful lot of competition for that, and it was being driven by low cost, and they couldn't see a future for the business. They brought in a new MD, and he looked to develop novel products that had real margin that could go into the healthcare sector. As a result of that, they then developed a new product which is genuinely novel. They've created a new business on the back of it. They've added 50% more sales across the group, and it's had a really transformative effect. So how did they do that? How did they make that? How did they make that strategic plan? Again, they didn't do that because that's not the kind of business they are. They realised there was a large market in the NHS if only they could develop a product that outperformed everybody else. And they felt that if they worked with the university, they had a chance of doing that. I'm sure these are very useful, and it's not to be disrespectful of an awful lot of work that's gone into those, but from a company perspective, it was simply the fact that they took a view that they had to look like a different business, and they decided that they could see a way forward to do that. And in traditional SME way, they just went for it. So when we were putting together the application form for them, when we were trying to put a business case together, they didn't really have an idea about how big the market was. They just knew the market was huge, and it was more than big enough for them, and if they could get a percent of it, they'd be quite happy. So they didn't use those, but actually they do have quite a clear view of where they want to be. So that brings me on to how you do that. And I watched another speaker earlier who was talking about similar things, really. And really, what it seems that businesses come in to talk to us about, and what we end up discussing with them and trying to find the answers to, are those 10-year future vision sort of discussions. What does the business look like now? Where are the key competitors? Where's the industry going to be in 10 years' time? Do the products that we've got, are they going to be useful in 10 years' time? Are there reasons why we can't use them? Are there competitors who are coming into the market who can undercut us? What's my industry going to look like, and how am I going to change this business? And that's really the sorts of things that we tend to do with Knowledge Transfer Partnership, because we're dealing with quite significant change for the business. So the projects typically last for a couple of years, but we're doing some quite big things with those companies. But an awful lot of what seems to happen is that it's that co-creation that seems to go on between the businesses coming in, the academics and ourselves, sitting down with them and talking about the challenges they face and trying to explore where the answers might be. The Rumsfeld quote is a great one to use. This is an example. This company here down in Hertfordshire, they're a very good company. They breed 4 million insects a week, and they breed several thousand lizards every year, and they sell them into Pets at Home. So if you go into Pets at Home, the live crickets are from Monkfield. And they were forever getting pestered by the BBC and by journalists who wanted to talk to them about supplying insects for human food. They found out that we had some expertise in that area. We didn't know we had that expertise, but it turns out we do. And they came in to talk to a bunch of academics around what we could do with them. So they originally said, we'd like to develop this, we'd like to stop selling to Pets at Home, or create another business where we sell into Sainsbury's, or we sell into Nestle or Unilever, and we can sell these things for more money. In the course of the conversation, what they realised was that actually, the academics said it's only ever going to be a niche product, or at least for the next 20 years. People eating insects, certainly in that way, is only ever going to be a niche product. It's never going to be big, it's not going to change your life. However, there is a shortage of things such as soya for animal feed, particularly pig feed, because there's increasing need for protein. If you can supply insects as a source of protein to animal feed, that's a really big market, something crazy like 50 billion a year in pig feed alone. So there's an enormous market there. So that's an interesting example of where the business really came in with the wrong question. They came in with a smaller question, and it's what we see an awful lot, is that the business will come into us in desperation with a problem they can't solve, and either at the start, before we write the funding proposal, or at the end of the project when they've successfully done all the things they said they wanted to do, they say we should have asked some bigger questions. Because the thing that was pressing at the time was just the first bit, actually understanding about how much protein there is in that cricket and how we can feed it with a specific feed at that point to make it better to eat, whether that's for a human or for an animal. It comes back to that fundamental science bit. There's some real fundamental science in there, and it wasn't the question that the company originally came in with. So that's all from me. I hope they've been useful. I tried to kind of steer away from too much of the theoretical innovation stuff, because that's not what I could do, but I can talk to you about examples of businesses who've been through that journey with us. So I'm more than happy to have a chat with you afterwards. Twitter is probably the easiest because it's the shortest. By all means, drop us a message. Any questions now? I'm happy to do those. If not, I'll let you go on to your last speaker.